Hey everyone, Wayne here. This is Sampdoria-Roma. We're going to be looking at three things: the expected formations, some interesting stats, and who is Sampdoria's new boss, Dejan Stankovic. You may have heard of him before.
If you like my video, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Thanks.
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic heading into this one. I know that Sampdoria are winless this season, and for Roma, we have seen growth if we're thinking about Real Betis and in the past, but there are still signs wanting for maturity in this side. We see Jose Mourinho in his second year now with the club. Historically, he's done very well in his second year, but Roma is off to a rocky start. I think we all have to admit that. But there are some promising statistics here for Roma, and the first one is that no side has taken the lead more in Serie A this season without dropping a point once they get in front. Roma have scored 6 goals that way. So once they get ahead, what it's saying is that chances are they're not going to have someone come back against them. And what does that show? That has to at least show signs of maturity, of growth, mental attitude, things like that, of that sort. The last time that these two faced people, it was Mkhitaryan who won it for Roma. Of course, he's at Inter now, and we'll get back to some Inter connections as we go along. It gets from bad to worse for Sampdoria because this is the longest losing streak, worst form that they've been in since 2006. Success has been non-existent for them. Just one clean sheet in the first half of any game that they've played thus far. 10 matches without a win. 4 points behind 17th place Bologna, who they just recently tied. It's their worst start ever for a Serie A campaign. I had a feeling this was going to happen with their turnover. Didn't really get new life. Their manager, mediocre at best. Really nothing there. And then in 2022, 19 out of 28 matches they've played have been losses, so it's grim. So that's why I say cautiously optimistic in the sense that we really don't know what Roma we're going to get. But this seems to be a habit, like a theme. Whenever a team fires their manager, it seems like Roma is the next team that they face, and the players are all like, "Yeah, let's go get the win." We'll be getting to Stankovic in a minute, but things are looking okay for Roma. It's the return of Rick Karsdorp. I'm glad to see him and that his meniscus issue wasn't so major. A little bit about what we can expect to see on the pitch, though. You will see Pellegrini take that more attacking role again. In this 3-4-2-1, he will be the inverted playmaker, trequartista, if you will, who will look to progress the ball. In my opinion, he has done an okay job at best so far this season. I need to see him get a little bit more adept to the role and what's needed of him. I think that sometimes he looks a little confused between the center midfield role and getting into more of the attack. It's almost like he tries to play the same position both ways, but I liked the way that he played against Betis, getting a little bit deeper. I think that that's really his best position, is either an intermedio or as this deep-lying playmaker. I think might actually be for him because he can really spread the ball when he wants to. Belotti has scored 9 against Sampdoria in his career, but it's been since 2018 since he's actually scored at the Marassi, and I think that he's going to get the start. Following his Europa League ban, Zaniolo is back. Not so confident that he gets the start, but I would say that's, for me, like a 40-60. So a 40% chance of him getting the start. I'm not sure if you're betting, if you're a gambling man. But yeah, I'm just not, because Mourinho played Belotti with Tammy Abraham, that's like the direction I'm more going in. I'm just starting to get that feeling. Sampdoria's main guy, though, forget Gabbiadini for a sec, Caputo, even Quagliarella, who will be on the bench. I feel like it's Filip Djuricic. I've watched this guy play for a while now, and at Sassuolo, I really liked him. He's 30 years old now, but he's the player who scored last week in the Bologna when he got the equalizer. So this is Roma's second match now without Dybala. The first one was against Betis, of course. So my question is, now that we face a true Serie A round and you got to go and get the win, who becomes the guy who progresses the ball forward? Where does the creativity come from? And can Pellegrini handle that weight, really, of being the captain and now having to provide a bit more? Like sometimes he's had some inconsistent performances, but at this point in his career, you can't have that anymore. He has to be straight up throughout the 90 minutes plus. So I need a big performance from the captain. And I know he's going to want to be there and getting on the score sheet and making it happen, being involved in goal-scoring actions, and all that stuff. So Belotti scores after Camara makes a great play, and that to me suggests that Camara gets the start. I think that he's earned it, especially with Pellegrini moving forward. I think that the midfield duo will be Cristante and Camara. I'm excited to see what he brings. His tactical understanding has been great. When he came on against Betis, he changed the game. He was a spark plug there, really gave something, I think, to the whole team, getting back as far as providing up in the attacking third. I think that's obvious, right? Because he made the assist for Belotti. So great stuff there from him. I think he's deserved it. Strong game also from the number 9. Is Belotti number 9? I think I got to research this. I think, what is he, number 11? I got to look this up real quick. Number 11. Sorry, I had a moment there. Abraham Stein. So, a little bit about this manager before I go into the players. Stankovic, he played in 12 seasons in the Champions League plus 1 in the UEFA Cup. That's what it was called then. And guess which season he played the most in? 2009-10, when he won the Champions League under Jose Mourinho. So it didn't start out very good for the both of them, though. With the Calciopoli scandal happening, Stankovic's move falls through to Juventus, and then what you see is that Stankovic has to work his way back into Mourinho's setup. There's some friction. Mourinho actually said something along the lines of he's not the player that he was at Lazio. Stankovic had injury issues, but he comes back, he proves a point to his manager and becomes influential with 8 starts in that 2009-10 season, eventually lifting up the cup. In the things I remember about Stankovic, if you're old enough to remember, he was a hard player to get past. Really hard-nosed center mid, could do a little bit of everything. Some other crazy stats about Deki, as he's known off the pitch, is that he was Red Star Belgrade's youngest captain. That was in 1997. He was just 19 years old. So he grew up in Belgrade in Serbia. He's the only man to represent 3 nations at the World Cup, first being Yugoslavia and then Montenegro, and ultimately Serbia. So that's a really cool, fun one for you. Maybe it'll come up on Jeopardy. Don't hold your breath. So with that being said, it's going to be interesting to see those two on the touchline shaking hands. But, maybe Mourinho loses his cool. You never know what the ref is going to do to him or to poke the bear there. So his first stint as a manager was back in Red Star with Belgrade, and they go on a crazy run, unbeaten through the whole season, winning 35 of 38 matches. They get to the round of 32, though, where they face who? Inter Milan, and they get knocked out. It's like such football poetry there. Some starting lineups here: 4-2-3-1 for Sampdoria, the home team. Aldero, who I think is a good keeper. Berezinski, Polish international, he's 30 years old. Ferrari, he played U21 for Italy, if I remember correctly. Colli, who turns 30 in 2 weeks. So a lot of players, I'm going to keep mentioning the age 30, we see that they're mature players. And just because they've been losing, I don't want Roma to underestimate this team. I don't want the fans to. And then you could see him getting a little bit nervous here. Augello, Rincon, it's a 4-2-3-1 again. Rincon, 34 years old, Serie A journeyman, was bought for Juventus, went out on loan to Torino, played for Sampdoria's gut-wrenching rivals in Genoa. Now, Ronaldo Vieira, listen to this stuff. Grew up in Portugal, was born in Guinea. His father dies when he's 5 years old. His family moves to Portugal. Then he actually ends up playing for England, U21. He signs for Benfica, then he moves to Whitley Bay Boys Club, which is close to Newcastle, before getting signed by Leeds off of a recommendation from a parent, becomes a regular starter in 2016-17. So at a maximum age by him, he's only 18 years old max at that point. And at 18, he becomes a temporary captain. That's in the 2018-19 season under Bielsa, and then gets signed for Sampdoria for 7 million euros as they move to replace Torreira. It's a crazy story. It's like, if you don't look into this stuff, you wouldn't know. I didn't know this. This is not just deep down in my head. I had to research and look this up. Gabbiadini, still a threat. It's surprising to me that they're saying he's going to start out wide as a right-wing attacker there. 97 goals in his career between Serie A and the Premier League when he played for Southampton. Most notable Serie A club being Napoli. So it's in him, man. Gabbiadini can be a serious threat. You don't want to take these guys lightly. Sabiri. I saw Sabiri score against Spezia in the now derby of Liguria, you could call it. 25-year-old attacker, grew up mostly in Germany, is from Morocco originally, and is a Morocco international there. Juricic again, 30 years old. He's been around Benfica, Mainz, Southampton, Anderlecht, Sampdoria before he goes to Sassuolo, and now back to Sampdoria again, to name the majority of his clubs, but not all there. So also a countryman to the Serbian Stankovic. And then Caputo, who I think most Serie A fans fell in love with during his late success in his career for Sassuolo, but he's still doing his thing, and of course Quagliarella should be on the bench. For Roma, maybe what you've been waiting for, the 3-4-2-1. It's looking like Patricio, of course, Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez, no changes there. Expect Zalewski out on the right. I think he's been great. I love Zalewski. He's really getting to me this season. Like, I really invest a lot. I'm excited to see him play for Poland in the World Cup. Camara, as I mentioned before, and then Spinazzola out on the left. Spinazzola has had tough moments this season. I'm looking for him to get a big performance and pull himself up by the bootstraps. Then Pellegrini with Zaniolo is being expected, but I think instead of Zaniolo that Mourinho goes for a 1-2 up top with Belotti and Tammy Abraham. I think Zaniolo comes on in the second half in like the 63rd minute. That's what I'm feeling. If you had to ask me to give a expected outcome for this match, expected 2-0, 0-2, Roma. That's what I'm feeling. I think they're going to put Sampdoria away. I think this team is demotivated regardless of the manager that they have. But I'm expecting some hard-nosed football, exactly the way that Stankovic played throughout his career. This is a guy that was revered by his teammates for his off-the-pitch advice, counsel, maturity. And I'm expecting that to flow into his team now. And I expect him to stay around Serie A for quite a long time. Subscribe, guys. Give it a like. Forza Roma.